Hey, I hope y'all are doing good. So here is the beta version of DailySAT completely done. This is the second version, the first version being this one over here, just like a prototype. And this is going to be the fully polished out with a full-fledged backend version, right? It has authentication in it, which we're going to look at in a little bit. But before we get into the authentication, it's important to understand the core functionality, which is going to be the actual practice. So I wish I could have given you a production ready build, but unfortunately, some bugs in within the workflow of my deployment is not working. It's not letting me uh, publish the web application onto the internet. So we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow. But anyways, here are the four topics you can choose. Let's choose like expression of ideas, right? It picks a random question and then we can pick one. You notice how there's highlighting, so it lets you know. And then it lets you know if you get it incorrect. And if you get it incorrect, you can even see an editorial which kind of gives you like a hint into what the solution is. Currently, there are none of like editorials. I just didn't create any, but we can create some later on, right? So you have an ID. The question ID is actually a foreign key, which correlates to one of these questions. So that's why I really use SQL, right? Because or SQL, whatever you want to call it. But it's because of the fact that I can create these relationship between different entities and different documents and basically have structured data, right? That's the reason why I chose this, right? But anyways, here we don't have any editorials. It's A, right? There you go. I don't have like a very good UI for telling us, oh, you won, like you got it correct. But I'm gonna fix that later on. Much of the UI is gonna be improved significantly, but this is sort of my rough idea of how I want the platform, like how I envision the platform. Now, if you look at the scoreboard, it tells us how many points we have. So currently we have one, right? Because we got that one answer correct. Let me go ahead and try this one, and I got this one correct too. So now I have two, right? Let's say if I get something incorrect, or like, let me pick this one, right? So it says incorrect, try again. And you can see in this case, it stays at two, it doesn't go to three because we have conditional statements and conditional logics preventing that from happening. Okay, this is the regular functionality. Now for the login, you go to slash login, the UI is completely bad. Okay, it's not good, right? But we're gonna improve on it, and this is for um, just sort of for the functionality of it, right? So how the login works is you're going to have is all Google login, by the way. There's no username and password. And the reason why I did that was, first of all, username and password is much more harder to implement, because what if they forget their password? What if they want to rechange their email or something like that? It adds this whole level of extra complexity and money, right? Because then you're gonna have to have like a whole nother service to send emails out for confirmation and things like that. It just gets messy. So instead, I kept it nice and simple with Google. I have their serverless API. This is completely free to use. There's no limits to it. Literally, there's nothing that it uses to identify you. The only thing it needs is an access token, and that's just used to verify if a user is who they say to be, right? So basically, what happens is, this is the flow: is you log in with Google, right? Now what's happening is Google is sending, ignore that message, but Google is now sending the front end a access token. Okay, so if we look into our page.tsx, we're sorry, our login, my bad. But if you look here, where from the response given by the Google login, we have a access token, and this is sent to the backend through a query, right, through a query, and then it's being verified through Google APIs to make sure that they didn't malform the API request and add some random text and then call it a day and then just hoped it would authenticate, right? We want to make sure that Google recognizes this, right? And we do that through here. So think of this whole code as like a bouncer. It makes sure that whoever is being let into this program, right, is actually who they say they are, right? So here you can see that this response will actually give a 401. Okay, it'll give a 401, which is an error, so it's going to catch in the error, and it's going to give a 401 if it's an invalid token, and then we give this response. Right? If there's another error, then we're going to give the generic one, but we want to give this error if it's a 401 so that the user knows that whatever you inputted, it was wrong. Maybe the token got expired, or maybe you were trying to be a bad actor or a hacker, right? We're going to let them know that this is not acceptable. You need to restart your whole process, right? Over here, I'm just getting you're already logged in because I already have a session, right? And if I show you in my memory in my application, you can see that in my cookies, I already have a session, right? This cookie is just it just holds a session ID, which references to my Redis database. So this ID would reference back to my database for session, and it would come out as true, right? But anyways, I'm not going to delete it and then redo it. You already know how session ID works, or session-based authentication. If you don't know, I'm going to leave a link down below so you can just look at that. But yeah, that is it from me, and this is a quick recap of all the progress that was done.